on the air. Hopefully after some technical difficulties last week, we'll see how this works now. If not, we'll run it in post, right?
Yeah.
That's what they say.
Hopefully.
We'll run it in post. Okay. Let's see. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to One-on-One Live with Coach Blu and Athletic Director Marissa.
Hello.
How are you doing over there today?
Good.
Awesome. We're doing a little bit of a mic check right now. Is there any, I feel like I'm getting a little bit of residual. Can you hear
me?
I don't know.
I don't hear anything.
Okay. Then I'm gonna ignore it then. Pretend like it's not even there.
I'll try to check.
Awesome. Hey, everybody. Sorry for jumping on here late. We had some stuff we needed to take care of before we jumped on here. Sorry for jumping on here late. Yeah, there you go. That works real well.
I think it's good.
Okay. Holy cow, Marissa. I'm not sure what we did.
We fixed something.
But we've done it.
That we had a problem with last week. So
absolutely. So we're going to jump into a few things today. But first off, I want to welcome you all. The One-on-One Live with Coach Blu and Athletic Director Marissa is an opportunity for you to be part of the discussion. We're talking about addiction recovery, mental health issues, anything that you feel like you want to talk about, therapeutic in nature, recreation, whatever. This is your location. This is your spot. We take this podcast, we take this program and then put it into our podcast. You guys can listen to it later. If you come in late, you want to hear the beginning, it's going to be available by tomorrow. So kind of a great thing.
Yes, sir.
Marissa, we've got lots of stuff happening in the future here, but let's chat a little bit about our Patreon subscribers.
Yeah, go ahead.
These guys are awesome. They help Addict to Athlete move this podcast forward. Patreon's a program by which you can jump onto patreon.com/addictoathlete. And you can see a tier that would work best for you to donate to Team Addict to Athletes, like us giving you something back too, instead of just a donation, which we love. That's how this program operates. Patreon, I feel like you get something back in return.
Yeah, we give bonus episodes, and our recovery playbook is being published there first before we let it out to the public. So
absolutely,
for only $2 a month or more, you can help us, and we hopefully help you with our content, and we're grateful.
Yeah, so the Addict to Athlete extracurricular recovery playbook is weekly doses of the program itself. It's tips and techniques on how to metaphorically use the program for your recovery, overcoming addiction and or mental health trauma.
Yes.
All kinds of stuff. So patreon.com/addictoathlete will give you all kinds of tiers to choose from, all the way from, like Marissa said, bonus content to merchandise, all kinds of fun stuff. But I want to thank our Patreon subscribers that we have right now. We have quite a few, and I want to thank our super fans. They are Jerem Thurston, Holly Davies, Scott Foster, Coach Chris Williams, Brett Frew, who I still haven't seen since he's been back.
Oh yeah, you haven't.
Yeah, come on, Brett. Let's check in. Yeah. Let's go to lunch. Coach Tara Butson, Steve Riggs, and the Warrior Within Podcast and Personal Development by Sensei KP, who jumped into the frozen
he did the
lake.
polar bear plunge. Yeah,
he did. And before we move on, I want to give a special heartfelt condolence to the Telluride team of Addict to Athlete with Coach Tara Butson. They've lost one of their athletes out there. And whenever you see our social media links and you see the Addict to Athlete logo with the black ribbon through it, that means that we are mourning the loss of one of our own. So for all you out there in Telluride, Colorado, the team Addict to Athlete under Coach Tara Butson, our hearts are with you, and to the family, we want to support you. So love you guys. Our rookie level subscribers, Kenny Roseman, Cher Bear, Sherry Polson, right?
Yes.
Earl Dyer and Joe Jackson over there on the other side of the pond.
Yep.
We got our pro level subscribers, Gary Thurston and Josh Hansen, both men of valor. Love those two
guys.
Our championship level subscribers, Shad and Freya Robinson, and the whole Robinson family.
Yes, thank you, Robinsons.
Absolutely. Ron and Dee Loesch and Tracy Whitby. Thank you all so much for your contributions.
Champions.
So, Marissa, anything on the horizon that the team needs to be made aware of that you know of? We just got done with our polar bear plunge, right? The penguin plunge. I don't know what they call it, but it was also a fundraiser for our athlete who had passed in December, Don Hutchins. And so it was awesome to see the Run Like Don shirts out there. So all those who participated in that,
it was a huge group. You can go and see pictures on our social media. It's awesome.
Got a video coming soon, but that was a big run. I'm blown away by the people that go out there and will freeze to death while they run and then jump into a frozen lake.
It's ridiculous to me, but
it was awesome.
Some people like it.
It was awesome. So thank you all for who participated there. Yeah. And I do know that we'll have some more I guess, opportunities to be with the team. Coach
Yes,
Jensen's
I
putting
think
together.
Jed's doing a test run for our No Man Left Behind race that we're hoping to get started this year. So he's just doing it with some of our athletes that we have locally. If anyone wants to join, I'm not sure on that one, but we've got other things coming up. I haven't got anything on the calendar yet because we don't have some things set in stone, but we do have a new meeting venue for Utah County. If you are in the Utah County area, we are now meeting at the Fit to Recover gym in Orem, and it's amazing. It's awesome. We're so grateful to be able to partner with Fit to Recover and being able to help more people in the recovery community.
Absolutely. I'm hoping to get Ian Acker on the podcast soon. I've wanted him on our podcast for a long, long time. And so this might be the absolute opportunity to bring him on so that more people can hear about Fit to Recover's mission as well.
Yeah. So please, our website has all that. I try to keep everything updated really well. So if you go to addictathlete.org, you go under resources and there's a link for meetings, and it has links to all of the Facebook groups for each chapter and the days and addresses of all the meetings that we have.
Absolutely. And so, yeah, keep a close eye on the webpage. We have an online store. If you guys want to look at any kind of athletic gear, maybe representing Team Addict Athlete, our official race jerseys are on there.
Yep. We've got some really awesome recovery gear. We have
all the extracurricular recovery.
Life in recovery. We have other kind of recreation, extracurricular stuff that's really, really cool. Hats, shirts, hoodies, everything.
The cool thing I like about what we're doing with the store, and I'll be honest with you, is I see a lot of people that are promoting sober attire and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And, there's still kind of a concept too of like, when you put too much of the old classic kind of sayings, like the one day at a time, all that kind of stuff, that's great. But I know that not a lot of people want to wear that kind of stuff. So ours is really kind of subtle. And I'm not putting anyone else's down, but I'm just saying that like, it's not what you think, jump on it. Because again,
I'll post a link in the comments.
The whole concept of Addict to Athlete is to move from addiction to sobriety, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's great to understand that you have that kind of a past, but also it's like, we're not focusing on that negative aspect. We're focusing on the stuff that's coming residually through your work and your effort.
Kind of the change. New person. We have softball shirts and we have things about softball and hiking,
trail running, all kinds of stuff.
Lots of different activities people like. So it's a really good mix.
Absolutely. So check that out as well. And we'll jump into, if you'd like to become, if I just jump on, please follow the links that have been provided in the description here. You can do so through Zoom itself. You can post your question on Facebook, YouTube, wherever this is being broadcast right now. And we'll do our best to bring you on board.
Yes.
We've got other questions that we've gathered throughout the last couple of weeks that people submit for the show. And so if we don't get these answered, we'll do our best to answer them to you directly. So we'll go ahead and kick this off now. Marissa, there's a few things I know before we even start, I think we need to talk about. Do you have anything out the gate right now?
No.
Okay. So a few things. We'll let you have a peek into the Robinson, family system. It was interesting. We just, the reason why Addict to Athlete exists is because we are service oriented. And part of that service means that there are sacrifices and other kind of things that need to be made. And Marissa and I have always said that this team will exist as long as it doesn't interfere with our family, because family always comes first.
Yeah,
100%. I remember whenever we've kind of departed from that mindset, we've been promptly reminded by our children that that's not how it works. Right?
Yeah.
And that's what happened today, in that there was some situational things that we needed to take care of with our family. And it was interesting because we got teenage daughters. We got a 16-year-old, an 18-year-old, and they're a handful.
We love them.
But it was interesting because there was an impasse on some emotion that we needed to take care of. And as I was sitting there, and as we're having this process group with me, you, and the two girls today, the one came home from lunch, and you'd had the other at the doctor's appointment for her broken finger.
Mm-hmm.
And we put everything on hold. School was on hold. Addict to Athlete was on hold. It was everything.
Yep.
And as we were talking and processing, it got loud and it got teary and it got angry and it started to smooth out. We processed that for a good hour almost.
Yes.
And I asked the girls too, I said, what is this like for you guys? Why you have, this is different than I know a lot of family systems operate. I was kind of shocked and surprised by their response. They have 2 therapists for parents.
Yeah.
And, when their friends find out they have 2 therapists for parents, they'd mentioned that they're like, oh, that must suck. Right.
Yeah.
That's not what they felt.
No, they seem to enjoy it.
Can you believe that?
Yeah. And sadly, it's because they've started to finally, they probably didn't like it for a long time, but they've started to finally see how some of their friends and some of their neighbors' families work. And they're just recognizing that they're grateful for how we handle things. And I'm grateful.
I'm grateful. And the reason why I want to start with this is because listeners, right now, there's a lot going on in our worlds. And each of us have our own amount of stress on our plates. I have stress. Marissa has stress. The girls obviously have stress. No one's stress out trumps anybody else's, right? I mean, it really is to each their own, but to each their own means that it's real.
Yeah.
And I'm noticing that when we try to go for quick fixes and we try to slap Band-Aids on and we try to put the parental kind of like, Band-Aid on a gaping wound, that's sometimes not enough.
Yeah.
And so I want to make a plea to all you listeners out there that the climate of culture that we're experiencing right now through the pandemic, through the political issues, through daily stresses and things that our kids are going through, it's monumental. It's something that we've never seen before. The pandemic has definitely separated and segmented a lot of people, and we're forgetting how to communicate with one another. And what I'm noticing is that everything's so high stress right now that we may be overlooking or looking through or past significant issues at home that need to be addressed.
Yeah.
And we are seeing a significant increase in suicide, in overdose, in divorce, in domestic violence. And I think partly the reason for this is none of us really know what to do anymore.
Everyone's, I think, exhausted.
Everyone's tired.
And it's understandable.
Yeah.
I think, like you said earlier, it's really important to understand that just because everyone feels like their stress is the worst stress most of the time, at least I guess I do. And it's easy to look at your kids or a spouse and think, you don't have it as hard as I do. Nice try. Get over it. If you only understood. But everybody's stress is really heavy, no matter where you are. So just having that empathy and understanding that even though it's not the same stress as yours, for them, for other people, it is really heavy.
Absolutely. And, we got this 18-year-old kid who'll be graduating in a couple months. And, I was looking at her and you could kind of get that feel of like, she's terrified.
Yeah.
And it's not that she's terrified of life. It's just like, she's like, oh my gosh, this is happening now. And, she may not have exactly what she wants to be when she grows up figured out. And that's okay. I mean, I didn't.
Yeah.
Right. But when there's all this exterior kind of like stress of like, everyone's, what are you doing? What's happening? How's this going? Like, it can be overwhelming.
Well, yeah. Cause I don't think we've put a lot of pressure on her to like decide what she wants to do. And is she going to college and where she's going? And has she gotten this scholarship and has she done that? And what day is she moving out? I feel like we've been just pretty relaxed, but she's putting a lot of stress on herself because she feels like she needs to do that. But also she's saying she's feeling that pressure from the world, because all of her friends are doing it or people at school. And this is what you're supposed to do when you're 18. And so it's like, even if we've been like understanding, like, you don't need to know who you are or where you're going at 18. That's fine. It still comes from other places. And so, we had to kind of take a minute and say, it's okay. You don't need to be worrying about where you're going to live in 6 months and which school you're going to. I don't care. You can stay here. You can decide in a year. You don't need to go to school now.
But that's the situation too, though, is school even the right choice these days? And, I don't think this is one of those things too that I hope a lot of our listeners will kind of take heed with. And that's our way of doing things back then or the way our parents did things even back then may not be the way that these kids need to do their their futures. They may not need to utilize the same outlets that we did. And what I mean by that is, there's growing concern about the cost of school, the stress of it all, the debt that's acquired, and then the return on investment. I read a thing the other day that was talking about millennials are seeing more and more addiction and suicide because they have now been through 2 recessions. They are still paying for school loans, that the job market is not so strong for them. There's situational issues that have popped up with them, and society itself keeps calling them the weak links.
Yeah.
That's not a good combo.
No.
And so as we start seeing some of these cultural drifts and these changes, you have to understand that at the end of a lot of those avenues are mental health issues and addiction, substance use, potential suicide, all this stuff.
Yeah.
We've got to start being more careful on how we approach this stuff with our society, and so what we're seeing too is now we get these kids that are coming up, and I'm sorry, but I'm not one that's going to advocate college to my kids.
No.
If they want to, fantastic, but I'm not going to be like, that's what you have to do. No. It's not a good return on investment these days.
I believe there are very limited nowadays, very limited careers that need college, because they need, like to be a rec therapist, to be a therapist. Yes. It doesn't matter. Right now, you still need college. You still need state and national licensure and things like that. To be a doctor, to be a lawyer, go to school. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But there's so many other jobs out there that don't need that. Absolutely. So many that you used to, if you were failing if you only got high school. But now, oh my gosh. Yeah. How many mechanics and like welders and construction workers do we know that make way more money than you or I?
Yeah.
Way more.
Absolutely.
With 0 college.
They go through technical school, they get their certificates.
Yeah. Or even apprenticeship and working on the job. And we've got, your college career was what, $98,000, and we're still clipping away at that as we can.
Have a $98,000 brain.
Yeah. And
oh man, we should maybe.
Yeah. Your cousin is a mechanic and has made 3 times as much as you for way longer, because he's worked since right out of high school.
Yeah, absolutely. And guess what? There's always a need, right?
Yep.
So that's the thing too, though, is, and I look at some of these unnecessary stresses. Now, this isn't saying that I'm going to let the kids just kind of tumbleweed through life, obviously. Well, I shouldn't say that, but I don't want them to tumbleweed through life. But I also know that I said something to the girls upstairs, and you get this premise. Most people, when they hear this, they're like, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And that's, in order to have functional relationships to help build them appropriately, we have to do what we do is practice relationships before rules here.
Mm-hmm.
That's a hard one to wrap your head around. I know a lot of people struggle with that because it seems so foreign.
Yeah.
Relationships before rules. What does it mean?
It's a hard one.
It's relationships before rules, but there are still rules. So it's like, if I don't have a relationship with my children, then how in the world do I expect or even think they're going to uphold any kind of rule?
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can lay down the law and say thou shall not, X, Y, Z. But if I don't have a relationship with them, they're gonna be sneaking out.
Yeah. Well, to me,
off.
That's when it comes down to like respect. I've always thought that too. When you're working with somebody, if you respect them, you're a lot more willing to go the extra mile to do more at a job than if it's just, this is how it is, and this is how you get a paycheck and you go do it. Well, it's the same with our kids. You're going to get a lot more bang for your buck by having a strong relationship with them, but it is a lot more difficult to teach because there's not a cut and dry way to work it.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to go by feel, and you have to adjust at different times. And it's difficult.
Absolutely. So then, how do we, I guess, promote personal growth within, our children, the people we work with, when personal growth isn't easy? Most people continue to think and talk about what they want to have happen, and then they bump into something that doesn't quite match, maybe their plan, and it stunts their personal growth, right?
Yeah.
to develop, I guess, like that unshakable self-confidence. I talked about this last night in the meeting that we had on Addict to Athlete. It takes a ton of work, right? And so I'm not saying that I want to set our kids up to like be, like unscathed. Like obviously there's the hard knocks that they're going to have, but I don't need to add to them.
Yeah.
And so if I can build a relationship, it takes a tremendous amount of time. I don't think in our day and age right now, a lot of us are giving the adequate time that it takes to solve or to understand issues that your family presents.
Yeah,
you know this, on average, it takes 2 years before a parent understands or sees or recognizes that their kid's struggling with an addiction. Marissa, 2 years.
That's a long time.
What can happen in 2 years?
A whole lot. And they can be really deep before parents recognize it, which is sad.
And then what happens when parents recognize that after 2 years is they take it as a personal attack and
they panic,
failure on their part.
And then they respond in fear and they, react because they're all of a sudden, just trying to cover everything and get everything fixed. And how did I not see this? And personal
it turns
attack
into
on
a
a bad
knee-jerk
parent.
response.
Yeah.
And then mistakes are made because it's made out of fear and not out of a process.
Well, I saw a post the other day that I follow the Gottman Institute, and we've talked multiple times on this podcast about how much we love John Gottman. His book on marriage saved us. But it
started us. What are you talking about?
Started us.
Yeah.
But it saved us before we started. Yeah. When we were dating. But they still do tons and tons of research on relationships. And I saw a post the other day talking about with kids, how we should do, it's very similar. We should do connection before consequence. So when you have an issue, when you have a problem, come and connect, touch, hug, talk to your child. That's building the relationship before you go on to giving a consequence. And it was giving examples of doing this with a toddler or a 10-year-old, and I think it goes forever, right? It goes,
for sure.
It's that relationship before rules. And I just love that term, connection before consequence.
I do like that.
Something to think about.
And one thing that I think also works for anyone who finds themselves in a situation where they're having a hard time with their child or even spouse is to serve out of your inconvenience, which means that I'm going to ask the people that come in for help, with me to help their family system, to parent out of inconvenience. It is not convenient to be a parent sometimes. Have you noticed?
Most of the time.
So if we can do that out of our inconvenience, which happens most of the time, imagine what can happen. I mean, I remember when, before we had kids, do you remember how much free time we had? I can't even remember really. It's been so long. But when we decided to have children, we also realized that there were some things that we were going to have to sacrifice. I mean, how many ball games, how many basketball games do I watch now? Like zero. I used to follow NBA
watch sports all the time.
Yeah. And there's all kinds of things. And so I'm like, there are sacrifices because they're no longer convenient. And so if you parent out of your inconvenience, that means that you're able to kind of like see some of the intricacies. So I don't know if you heard about this, but I'm gonna pull this article up, and I want you to hear. I want to share with you the heartbreak on the Agents of Recovery podcast that's going to come out this Friday. I hope all of you will listen to it because Brock Bevel, Max Hall, and myself, we go deep into this story. But Brock's kind of taken it on himself to kind of start educating community about the fentanyl issue.
Yeah.
Do you know much about the fentanyl issue?
Yes. And it's pretty bad in Arizona. So fentanyl is 100 times stronger than heroin. A very small amount. Like it is dust compared to a penny.
You could put enough on a penny to cover Lincoln's nose.
Yes.
On the penny, and that would be enough.
In fact, I have
to take your life.
It less than the top of this nail.
Yeah.
It's not a lot. Is deadly. And it is coming in, it's being pressed into pills, it's being pressed into Xanax, it's pressed into other opiates, Oxy, but also other pills. And so no one even knows it's there, but also some people are buying it because it is, they say, a better high.
Okay, so I want you to listen to this and nothing about parenting out of inconvenience, because by no way, shape, or form am I demonizing this kid's parent? Okay. And I want you to make that very clear. I'm not,
Okay.
because remember, 2 years, on average, 2 years before we know our kids have an issue. This was kind of a gut check. I need you to know. It said, the headline, roughly 100 bags of fentanyl were found in a bedroom of a 13-year-old boy who died from fentanyl exposure at his school. This 13-year-old had 30 bags of fentanyl on him, hidden around the school. It took his life. And when they went and searched his home, they found 100 more bags of fentanyl. Okay. So it says police recovered about 100 bags of fentanyl from a bedroom of a 13-year-old boy who died after presumed fentanyl exposure. It's just, again, it doesn't take much. In Hartford, Connecticut, 40 bags of fentanyl were also removed from, not 30, but 40. 40 bags of fentanyl were also removed from the teen's school, according to police. Both sets of bags were packaged the same way, marked with similar stamp, which made it kind of understandably that it all came from the same source. The young teenager died on January 15th, 2 days after he was found unconscious, presumably exposed to fentanyl, at the Sports Medicine Science Academy. 2 other male students, also 7th graders, came into contact with the fentanyl. At the same time, were taken to the hospital and then released. It says, we can confidently say that the fentanyl caused this overdose. It's the same fentanyl that was located in his room and at school. The DEA at Hartford is trying to track down now the source of where it came from. So, you start looking at this right here. The teen's mother is cooperating with authorities. We have found no evidence that suggests that she had prior knowledge to her son's fentanyl possession. Holy cow.
Heartbreaking. She didn't even know.
Holy cow, Marissa.
It's so young.
So we can't be upset with mom. We can be like, dang it, right?
Yeah.
And I believe this because I think the days of parents who have kids that make choices like this, unless there's gross negligence, much like the kid who brought the gun to school after the school had the problem with them a couple months ago and the parents run away. I mean, that's gross negligence.
Yeah.
Okay. Parents, fentanyl doesn't play fair. Fentanyl does not play fair, and it is not like finding weed in your kid's sock drawer, right? If you listening to this right now have not heard of, do not know what it looks like, have zero information or understanding on what it is, you've got to start doing your research now because it's here.
Yeah.
In fact, here in Utah, just Coach Winters from Delta just sent me and Brock a message that says that the Utah Highway Patrol has already confiscated a big load of 200 pounds of it here in Utah.
Oh, wow.
So it's here.
Yeah.
And fentanyl doesn't play fair. It doesn't work the same way opiates do. It's like Marissa said, it's 100 times more potent than traditional opiates, which means that the Narcan that you get to use, not always effective. Sometimes you need multiple, triple, quadruple doses.
Yeah. And that's one thing Brock has said, in Phoenix, they're running out and they're having a shortage of Narcan because they've had to use, 1, 2, 5, 10 shots of Narcan on one victim to get them awake. And so they're running through it faster because it takes a lot more for it to reverse the opioid, which is horrible. So let's peel back the layers here because I want to talk about mom for a minute and family systems and family responsibilities. I believe that mom did not know. 100%, I believe that she didn't know. But I also think, all right, there are other indicators. It's like this, drug tests, right? We give drug tests to our clients. I know some family systems have given them to their kids if they've had histories of substance use. But the thing is, the drug test is only going to test honesty. Yeah. It's not really even going to catch a drug. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So there were so many times when I was working with the population at the level of the county when I was a therapist there, that I would say, look, we can go down and drug test you, or we can be honest right now. Yeah. Because if you're honest with me right now, it's like we can skip so many other unnecessary steps and we can get the help. Yes. But if you're choosing to be dishonest and we have to go find this on the drug test, then maybe our relationship isn't as strong as we thought. And then what happens? I think a lot of times that does happen because the parents or spouses have been lied to so long, they don't know how to tell the truth, or they've been gaslit so much by the addict that they're like, the only thing I can trust is this drug test because they'll just lie to me and tell me a million other answers.
Yeah.
Before, you know.
Yeah. And if they do that, then, that's kind of a drop in the negative side of the relationship.
Yeah.
So relationships before rules, parenting out of inconvenience means that there are going to be things that you want to do or scheduled time that now has to take a back seat.
Yeah.
Like today, because it was a situation where our family was kind of, girls were going to war with each other. We got pulled into it. This podcast was delayed.
Yeah.
Savannah school was delayed.
Yep.
Oh, well. Family
There's
comes first.
that are more important.
Absolutely. But here's the thing too, though, right? Is there are no solutions. I don't even know if we came to a solution. Did we?
Today?
There was no solutions.
Not really.
What was there?
There was listening. There was validating of emotions and feelings, and people were able to share and feel heard. And the aggression, the anger, all came down.
Absolutely.
And this is where then we have to just leave it and have them, we all go our separate ways and say we love you and hope that then they make some choices on reacting better.
Absolutely.
But feeling heard and being able for them to express their emotions is huge.
So I take this and I expand it because listeners, I want you to really I want to impress this on your mind. And that is, what if we started applying this to people throughout our relationship base, meaning not just family systems, but people that really need attention, need help. Most of the time and we're seeing people that are, again, losing the battle to addiction. We see them losing the battle of stress and depression. What if we started, serving out of our inconvenience?
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is not making sacrifices that are going to be detrimental to you, but more so like investing the time it's going to take.
Yeah.
Being cautious about how we are treating people. Most of the people, well, a significant amount of people that I know work in high stress environments also struggle with addiction. Let me tell you why. I'm talking about specifically things like telemarketers, right? Call centers. Call centers, unfortunately, are one of the most easy jobs to get into. And they typically, I guess, cater towards people in dire situations, which means that these people are either struggling with depression or substance abuse or things, not all of them, but many of them. We know many people.
Yeah. Or they, have a checkered past and there's, felonies. And so there's only certain jobs they can get, and that's when they can. And yeah, it's hard.
And you may not realize that the person on the other end of that phone who's doing their job, and unfortunately how inconvenient and how just awful it is at times, right, to receive these calls, your interaction with them could literally make or break their life.
Yeah.
We don't think about that. It's one of the champion challenge statements that we make. Treat people that you don't need with respect.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen anymore. I see it less and less in this world of ours, where we don't think we need someone, so we treat them with disrespect.
Yeah.
I work with several right now in individual therapy in my private practice that have call center jobs, and the poor things are just barely hanging on because they need the income. It's a job they can have as they're looking for new jobs, but it's all they can do because they are just getting hit with just the negativity. And trust me, I get it.
Yeah.
I can't sit here and tell you that I've been a saint to every telemarketer that's called me, right? But we've got to remember that these are real people.
Yeah.
I see these social media things where, people are throwing smoothies at girls, and, the guy who got the wrong smoothie, which is strange, but his son had an allergic reaction. Instead of going in there calmly and being like, hey guys, this is really scary, this is what happened, he rolls in there with the anger of 10 men and
abusive. And
guess what happens? He loses his job.
Yeah.
He loses his livelihood. He's made zero gain.
Yeah.
But on the same breath too, I watch these things where these guys, they call them the social justice, heroes, where they're going in and baiting police officers for their First Amendment rights and things. And I'm like, well, why are we doing this? It's causing a culture of disrespect. It's like, to get really deep into it, and I don't know why I'm on the soapbox right now, but it's even things like the prank shows and stuff. I remember what was the Aston Kutcher's one? Punk'd. Yeah. I got thinking, you know what? These are coming in so hot and so heavy I've watched these now for years, and I've watched people like in restaurants pretend to choke, or I've watched people, start a fake argument and try to get somebody involved, right? And see, there's one on I think NBC where they would set up a fake scenario of like maybe racism or
what would you
disrespect.
do
What would you do? And I'm thinking, what we're really doing.
It's good, but it desensitizes a lot of people.
I don't think it's good at all. I think it desensitizes people.
Yeah.
I've seen people that have seriously needed like assistance and aid, and they've been neglected because they think it's a setup.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, what are we doing?
Or we hear it and see it a lot, so we just move past it, thinking it's fake, thinking it's TV still.
Absolutely. And so then what happens is it's like, well, we can't trust anything for any reason.
Mm-hmm.
And then we put these things into culture and into motion, and then we're hoping that our kids are being raised and structured into these well-rounded people. There's a lot we're dealing with, parents.
Yeah.
Right.
So Lisa has a question. Yeah. So if it takes 2 years for a parent to notice that their child is using, would you say that it also takes 2 years for a spouse to recognize?
Oh, absolutely.
In their partner. Absolutely.
If maybe even not longer. Because again, now here's the cool thing. It's a great question, Lisa. The cool thing about this too is that an Addict to Athlete is not a 12-step program. We don't identify that, but there's some issues and some things that I've noticed with that too. And the 2-year thing, when they talk about life becoming unmanageable, mm-hmm. right? It doesn't happen all at once, right? In fact, it's kind of interesting. Like right now we're noticing, let's take our 13-year-old, our mm-hmm. little guy, not doing so hot in math, right? And so there's one thing that he's going through right now is not doing so good in math, mm-hmm. right? But if we started now seeing like, no friends, if we started seeing like isolation, if we started seeing like lying, missing school, maybe sloughing school or mm-hmm. things of that nature.
Yeah.
It would take us a while because all those things can be kind of like expressed out. Like I said, oh, well, mom, dad, I'm not good at math.
Yeah.
I need some help there. Or, I don't like those kids anymore.
It's this teacher.
Yeah, I don't really like these kids anymore, so I'm not hanging out with them anymore. Yeah. Or, mom, dad, I'm just down here on my computer. I'm in my room. So they can explain away a lot of things. And so not until you see the full collapse of everything that happens. But with adults, it's a little bit different. Okay. And I want to pull back the layer on this. So guys, if you're out there and you've got secrets, they're going to get exposed right here. Because you and I have seen a very huge increase in suicide with people that we've known mm-hmm. recently. 4 or 5 recently.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, not all the time, a lot of times there comes issues with secrets. Mm-hmm. And we've talked about this in other podcasts and stuff, but what I've noticed specifically in private counseling is that the first thing that starts to happen is the emotional isolation, which means that it begins to depart. Mm-hmm. And communication ends, sexual intimacy ends, yeah. Emotional intimacy ends. There becomes issues with finances. Finances is a big deal. Now we've seen this in a lot of people that we've worked with. One of the biggest indicators is spending and investing and secret accounts.
Yeah.
How important is it that a spouse knows about other accounts, other credit cards,
so both spouses should be able to and always be looking at the finances, bank statements, being able to log in online. If you, and I know in like our marriage is that way, I'm good with money, you're not. So I kind of take care of it, but you should always have the login. You should always be able to log mm-hmm. in and see. And that, yeah, I've just had tons of friends that, my husband takes care of it. And then all of a sudden things start coming out, yeah. and then they log in and recognize that thousands and thousands of dollars are missing and gone. So mm-hmm. always, it's not that you're checking up on the other person, but it's just being aware. Everyone, you both need to be aware. But yeah, spouses can hide a lot of stuff like that.
But should there be secrets though? Like checking up on them? You should. I mean, just like in your family, like we will go into our kids' rooms if we dare, and we'll look around. Right. I mean, we'll go in there and we'll shovel stuff around.
Yeah.
Right. And so you look at mom in Connecticut. It's like, Mom, when's the last time you went into their room?
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing. Like if you feel that emotional drip from your partner, It doesn't mean that there's an affair or that there's an addiction or whatnot, but it's one of maybe many that you need to be aware of.
Yeah.
What I've also noticed too is that when this happens, one of the biggest things that you'll see is when you start seeing lying start to kick in. Small things, right? Like people, places, and things that they say they're going to be attending or being with or engaging in. You'll start seeing that kind of stuff. You'll start seeing things that will kind of like bleed into the relationship fairly slow. Right. It'll be a slow burn. So it'll be.
And again, it's those things that can easily be excused, like they're stressed and there's so much going on at work. And so, that would cause problems with him maybe working more or her working more. And then there's less intimacy because you spend less time together. There's less sexual intimacy because they're overwhelmed and stressed. And all of that just makes sense. And, we have a pandemic going on and it's been 2 years and everything's been changed. So it's easy to just let things go and just try to be understanding by letting them continue rather than really having some emotional check-ins.
One of the biggest things that I teach when here on the team as a coach, as a therapist, and as a bishop when I served was the phone check. And I'm telling you, that's one of the biggest indicators. Like if you grab your partner's phone and they start getting sweaty, a little bit nervous, there's a problem. And I know that it's weird how that one device has become such a part of who they are. And it's like, if someone takes that, it's like, okay, that shouldn't be considered an extension of you. It should be an object or a tool that you use.
Yeah.
So whenever we grab our kids' phones, whenever we grab, if you grab my phone, like you have every password, every right to jump in there. And I saw this little meme that was a picture of Skeletor from He-Man. And he said, remember, what do you say? A blank search history is just as suspect as a full one.
Yep.
Reveals more. Yeah.
Reveals more. And then he runs away.
And I love that. I thought that's perfect. Right.
Yeah.
Now, I also want you out there to know is that there's always a way around. I've worked with clients that have downloaded apps that have pornography, that have like dating apps and things of that nature. And they will literally delete them and then re-up them. And so you'll go to check it and it won't have a search history because the app's gone. They'll go to that extent.
Yeah.
So there's so much to this. Nothing will reveal more than to be able to have an open, earnest conversation with that person. And I'm going to say, trust your gut.
Yeah.
A lot of us kind of don't do that.
Well, or we do. And then we can rationalize it and it makes sense because of this or that. And that's okay. Because sometimes it is that they just, Brian is on and says, sometimes I just work long hours and it gets in the way. Yes, that's
absolutely
true. So it is just paying attention and just checking in and then just checking in again. And, but also making sure that you're having some emotional connection.
I'm glad that Brian said that. I'm glad that Brian said that because sometimes that gut feeling you have is going to turn out to be nothing.
And then you're like, okay, I can't trust it.
Yeah. But it's also going to be something, because if you're having that gut feeling, then maybe it's not that there's something extracurricular going on, but it's like, maybe I'm without something. And so it sparks conversation. It's like, well, sweetheart, then, tell me what you're missing. Tell me what you need.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And so
like,
a lot
what
of
can
people,
we do? Because work is getting overwhelming. How can I support you or help you?
Yeah.
Relieve some stress, or, do we need to plan a family vacation? What?
You'll see this. A lot of times people will project their issues onto their spouse or their kids because they don't know how to identify it themselves. And what I mean by that is, it's like this. It's like when we were talking with the girls upstairs, like they were projecting each other's weaknesses onto each other to validate why they're upset, when really it's like, look at the mirror. It's because I don't want to do this, or I'm stuck here, or I don't understand how to fix this. So instead of projecting those issues onto your spouse or your children, take a look at it. I say own your own.
Yeah.
So, it's like this. When I was really into cycling and I was using it as my balancing and all this stuff, and you were home with the two girls before we had the boys, and I'm out there riding for hours and hours, right? You pulled me aside. You're like, hey man, like this,
I need you home.
I need you home. And I'm like, why? This is good for me. And it's like, I don't know. I don't really understand, but I don't want this lifestyle happening.
I've read through some of my Facebook memories that have popped up recently and like, oh, Blue's so wonderful. He did all the to-do list and the Saturday chores early so he could go out and ride, which was always helpful. But I still needed you home.
Yeah.
And so for a while that worked.
Mm-hmm.
And then I felt bad even bringing it up because it's like, okay, you're still covering the bases and getting things done that need to be done.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also, I need your presence and the kids need your presence too. So when you are at work all day and then riding all day Saturday, there is still a disconnect. And I had a hard time even getting to bring that question up because you were doing so well. Like, okay, I'll just get all the things done you need me to get done so I can still go ride.
It's interesting, listeners, that she brings that up because there are certain times too, even way post that, I'll say that in our later in life when I knew better, right? Mm-hmm. That I would still kind of like try and justify my behaviors or actions because it was under the degree of service. And I remember one time when I was serving in a church calling, it was a very busy church calling. That I was spending so much time doing what I thought that the calling required, that I was missing a lot of stuff too. And I was kind of burning the candle at both ends.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, I was very upset with Marissa because she would bring these things up and I'm like, you don't understand. And I would shut her down. And then one time she had this brilliant idea to take me to the most sacred place that we have in our faith. And for those of you guys that belong to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, you may know the building I'm talking about. And in a certain room, she like called me out and said, look, this is what I'm seeing. This is how I feel.
Well, and I had tried to bring it up multiple times, but at home there were just
too many distractions.
Too many distractions, too many emotions. You would quickly cut me off and we would end up arguing or I would cut you off. And
it had to make you feel bad because you're thinking, well, wait a minute.
What he's doing is good.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And so when we were in this location, in this very spiritual place, I had to just shut up and listen. And it was the most amazing realization of like, wow, this is bold. Mm-hmm. And I felt it. I'm like, it was so heavy with her that she had to do this to have this conversation. And it humbled me quite a bit because I thought we should have been able to do this at home.
Yeah.
But I love the fact that she didn't give up either, that she played her cards in a way that would, I guess, not force me, but like allow me to listen.
Yeah.
See, that's the one thing too, is that when you have these conversations,
it wasn't in a controlling way. I wanted to do it in a way that we could cut out emotion and cut out distractions so that I could feel heard, but also so you could feel heard. Because I knew that I came into that discussion every single time with a lot of ready to attack, so I wasn't helping it either, and in that situation, I wanted to be able to come in where we were both at like clean slates, I guess.
Yeah.
Talk.
I read this and I'll find it so you guys can have it, but I read this not too long ago as I was doing some research on some family therapy. Do you know how much each spouse should be spending alone with their spouse, like on a given week? Do you know how many hours? Mm-mm. Like it's interesting.
Where'd you read this?
I'll have to find it. It's in one of my books.
Okay.
And I was doing some research and stuff. And it said that there's a certain amount of hours that each couple should be spending together alone, not sleeping, right?
Okay.
But like without distractions, without kids and stuff. Guess how many hours on average couples should spend together in order to maintain an emotionally stable relationship? Take a guess.
Per week, per day?
Per week, 7 days.
I don't know.
Take a guess.
I'll say 10.
10?
And that's probably high for most people. Really high.
But guess what?
What?
It's not 10. It's more.
Oh.
20 hours. That's a part-time job.
Yeah.
Now that's to have a very strong relationship. On average, you should be spending 20 hours together.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
Guess how much average it says that most people get?
I bet 2.
2.
Yeah.
2. 2 hours is not enough. 20 may be Wow. Right.
Yeah.
You and I recently, because our kids are now getting older, we do probably close to that.
Mm-hmm.
I would say we work together. I mean, like right now.
Yeah.
Right.
But then there's other distractions. But yeah, even over the weekend, we drove to St. George and back on Saturday to help my dad with some things. And yeah, so we got good 8 hours plus there.
Absolutely. For kids, it's half that for each. So between the two of you, you should be spending at least 10 hours of alone time between you two with your children. It's kind of an interesting concept, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's why when we say that families come first, we mean it.
Yeah.
And there's been times when we've pushed that and our kids have had to reel us in.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
and now we're trying to freaking reel them in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, so I'm glad that Brian said that, because the fact is that there's times when it could look as though there's conflict, and you may be completely oblivious that the spouse is having a hard time to it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll be honest with you. Never put yourself in the position where you have to make a judgment call between your job or your family.
Yeah.
I will never do that. I always told my clients, I've always told my employers that I'm one emergency phone call away from dropping you like a hot rock.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have to do it always. I've only done it a handful of times.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to be held prisoner by someone with a job over my head. Nothing is more important.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to get fired. Oh, well.
Find another job.
Absolutely. So I get that. But, we get these feelings of inadequacy or these perfectionist parts of us.
Or, but then, I've got to pay the bills and that's going to be more important. That no, your relationship is more important. I can promise you will get by and find a way to cut things out if you need to, but you can't do that.
Well, do you remember, again, when I was in that position at church, you and I had a few very delicate moments with members that we would serve with. Mm-hmm. And there was a time that we went to visit a sister who was on the verge of passing away.
Yeah.
And it was right around Thanksgiving, remember? And we went to the hospital to visit her, and she perked up and she was so happy to see me and you. And she started kicking knowledge to us. Remember what she said?
Yeah.
What'd she say?
She started telling us about how important it is to have family time, to go on vacations, to have experiences together, to go camping. And
she told us about a few experiences she had at a reservoir here in Utah called Schofield, and camping, and how important it is. And I was wondering why she was telling us this, because we were there to visit her, but she started to kind of like disclose all these,
give us
all this advice,
wisdom and advice on life.
And she passed that next day.
Yeah. And she was, very old. She had the wisdom, and, she understood what was important.
Absolutely. So at that point in time too, she realized that that's what really counts. Because at the end, that's all.
That's all you have.
And it's sad because you and I have just recently finished this this I don't know, it's TV series on Netflix called Afterlife with Ricky Gervais.
It's so good. I highly suggest watching Afterlife.
I think every couple, every husband and wife should spend maybe some of that 20 hours a week watching this. Now, granted, it's a comedy through the BBC out there in England, right? I'll tell you, it is. I was
blown away. I've liked some of his stuff, but I also know he can be very crude and he can push the limit on a lot of things. So I wasn't super interested, but I had finished another show and then the trailer just popped up and I was like, wow, this looks really good. I should just try it. And oh my gosh, I was blown away. It was incredible. Probably one of the best things I've ever seen.
And I'm not going to get into it with you, but you should watch this because it makes you focus on the things that are really important. I have a whole new respect for Ricky Gervais. I really do now. He's one of my favorite people because of the way that he's able to eloquently show the love between husband and wife and what it's really about.
It's tears, it's laughter. It's, you go through every emotion. It is so good.
Absolutely. So it's interesting where you can find some of this stuff, but I guess, here we are I was just going to start with this and end up being the whole show.
There we are at the end.
But the reason why I think it's so important, you guys, is because if we don't invest the time's going to pass and we're going to miss some important things. And right now there's the potential to lose the relationship entirely. We've lost too many people, and it's the heartbeat of what's going on. There are conflicts in everyone's families. Lord knows we've got them in our own. It's about, seeing both sides of the coin. I just did a podcast just earlier this week about conflict resolution, specifically because of family situations that have arose, not just in our lives, but in others.
Yeah.
And it's about remaining humble and teachable, right?
Yeah.
Final thoughts on your side over there?
Good stuff. Spend time with your family.
Absolutely.
I know sometimes it's hard. In fact, that's one of the things we kind of finished with our girls is like, how do you know we love you? Mm-hmm. And they were saying, because we do this. And I said, really though? Like, this isn't, most people look at love as being the happy, fuzzy, good feelings. Mm-hmm. And when we do those things with them, it's not happy, fun, and good always.
No, it's not.
But that's what it is working through the hard to get to the good.
100%. 100%. So as always, this will be posted as a podcast. Please share this with anyone that you might think needs to hear it. We'd love to have you jump on and give us a review on the old podcast, whatever platform you listen from, I guess.
Yes.
I would highly recommend listening to the Agents of Recovery podcast coming out this Friday. Like I said, it goes into this fentanyl issue that needs to be, I think, really exposed. Also, Addict Athletes podcast and Chase the Vase. They're all great podcasts to help you guys understand some complex corners about mental health, recovery, and addiction.
Please leave us a review.
Yeah, it helps a lot.
We love it. I love seeing what you guys like and what's helping and what's not. So please log on.
The reviews help us get this out further. Yep. And it does. It pushes it out further. So until next time, athletes out there, listeners, go turn that mess